Hello everyone, this is Margarita with CityGal Papeterie. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I am going to be creating some mixed media Christmas cards. These are the supplies that I am going to be using today. I have a watercolor paper pad by Canson. These are really great for mixed media. They are 140-pound pieces of paper and they are 9 by 12. I do cut these in half so that I have more pieces to use. And then I also have this mat for my table, and it has a nice non-stick backing, and it protects my table from any mediums that I'm using on there. I have a water bottle for spraying, and of course some paper towels to clean up messes and clean up between color changes. And then I'm going to be using these magical powders. I do use all of the colors. Yeah, I think I use all of them. And then I'm also going to use these pigment powders. These are Vicki Boutin pigment powders, and you mix them with water to create watercolor paint. And then these are also Vicki Boutin. They are texture pastes in a variety of colors. And then lastly, I'm going to be using different Distress Oxide sprays. So here I'm cutting my papers down in half. So I will have 6 by 12 sheets. I'm sorry, I will have, what is 9 divided by 2? 4.5 by 12 sheets of watercolor paper. I'm going to start with my color wheel, making sure that I'm mixing colors that are not going to make mud. And basically you want to use colors that are side by side on the color wheel. If you use colors that are across from each other, they will make brown. So that's always really helpful to know. Here I'm going to begin by using the blue and the green. I can list the color names below. And you don't need a lot for these magical powders to work. They really are magical. They're amazing. I love them so much. Flipping my little container upside down so I can get some powder on my cap. And then I'll flip it over, open the cap, tap the cap, and then whatever little bit comes out, that is plenty for what I need. Once again, tipping it upside down, tap, tap, flip it over, tap again to get off the excess, and that's plenty. Like what I have on my mat is more than enough. I spray it with water to activate the powder, and you can already see how much color you get just from a very small amount of the powder. And I'm gonna grab my paper and kiss it to the mat, and that's what it looks like. The more water you use, the lighter your colors are going to be. The less water you use, the more concentrated and dark the pigment will be. You can also allow these to dry and then add another layer of either the same colors or a different color. And again, these do react with water even after they're dry, so you want to be aware that if you're not combining colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, you might make brown, which is fine if that's what you want to make. But if it's not, you want to keep that in mind. So I'm adding a little bit more blue because I feel like there's just too much green here. So I'm adding more blue powder and then spritzing it again. And I'm going to use a new sheet. And sometimes I will create tons of these backgrounds, and I keep these in my stash to use for different types of projects, for card making, for journals, for pretty much whatever you know comes to mind, scrapbooking, everything. These are always great to have on hand. That is my toddler in the background. So this one is dried now, and I'm adding a second layer just to kind of show you what that looks like. And yeah, so that's just the second layer of of color on this piece of paper. I'm going to show each of the backgrounds and how to use the different mediums that I've chosen. And then towards the end of this video, I'll show you examples of Christmas cards that I created using these backgrounds. I'm going to now clean up my background, my mat. And I'm still using the same colors. Here I want to add a second layer to the other sheet of paper that I used the green and blue with. And I think what I wanted was to add a little bit more blue to it. So you don't see it there because I skip it, but I do blast some hot air with my drying tool. I know that's not what it's called, but I can't think of it right now. My heat tool. And that's what this looks like. I think that looks really nice. And just like that, you can add more and more layers to your background, creating different patterns, designs, textures. You can also use stencils with these. You could use washi tape to block certain areas. There's many different ways of using these. So now I'm going to use blue and purple. And again, that's not the technical name for these colors. I will put that in the description below. I unfortunately don't have them right in front of me, so I can't give you the exact names for them. And again, just a small sprinkle will give me more than enough for what I need. Once again, I'm spritzing the powder to activate it. And I definitely use way too much water here, and you'll see how that lightens up the color. So I have, instead of like a deeper pink and a darker blue, I have like a very light pink and blue and some purples, which once they mix together, they will make a purple. And I'm just moving my paper around so that I can get the color flowing all over the paper and it's not concentrated in just one location. And as long as I have pigment or color, paint, whatever it is that I'm using, as long as I have some on my mat, I will continue dipping papers on there until I feel like I've used it all up. Yeah, I don't know. I find that, like, I know it's just a little sprinkle of powder, but I don't want to waste it. I don't know if you guys understand what I mean, but yeah, if I even have like a little bit of paint left, if I'm painting, I will find something to use it on. I'm going to add a little bit more powder so that I can make my colors a little bit darker. I want to have a darker shade of the blue and pink and purple, because they do create purple since they are mixing together. So now I got a nice amount of powder on there. And this time I add less water. And you'll see right now the difference. Like, this color is way more concentrated than the previous backgrounds. There was still some powder on my actual paper, and so I'm just spritzing it to get it to activate and then absorb into the paper. And now, of course, there's too much water on my sheet, so I'm like, I can definitely make another background from this. So that's what I'm doing. And now I have two of them. And I just love that so much. I love the unpredictability of it. Each and every one is unique. And yeah, you never know what you're going to get. I still have more water on here with color, so I'm grabbing some card mats that I had next to me. And that's what that looks like. The color and the liquid absorb differently on regular cardstock than they do on watercolor paper. And so you'll see that here. It doesn't flow as much on the cardstock. This is 80-pound cardstock. So it gives you a whole different look than using watercolor paper, which is 140 pound. And you can see I added some water, so that one came out really light. And now I'm just trying to blot it all up with my cardstock. And once I feel I'm satisfied enough with how much I've used, I'm going to wipe it all up and move on to the next colors. The next two are going to be the yellow and orange colors or powders. My kids are having a whole conversation behind me about something. I don't know what they're talking about, but as long as they're not bickering, I'm okay with it. All right, so here I'm having a hard time getting some of the orange out, so I'm flipping it over, I'm tapping it a bit harder, and then I get a ton of powder on there, which is way more than I wanted or need. You can barely see the yellow on there. It's mostly just orange, but it's there. And I don't add too much water. And then for this one, I grab the watercolor paper again. And I'm just dabbing it on there. I got powder. I picked up powder on my paper, so I'm mixing it up. I add more yellow because there was just too much orange, and I grabbed whatever was near me, which is this eyelet setting tool, to just kind of mix it up a little bit. And I'm going to go in with another sheet of watercolor paper. This is the last one I have here. And once I got that one all spread out, I'm definitely going to try and use up what's on my mat before I move on. You can totally skip past this, obviously, if if this isn't floating your boat or keeping your interest, because yeah, I totally get it. I lose attention really quickly sometimes with videos, and that's why I try to skip forward a lot of times to the next step. But sometimes people request to see the whole thing because they want to see the process, so you know, at least you can skip ahead if you really prefer that. Now it's almost all yellow, and I think I clean it up now. We move on, maybe. Now I'm going to move on to the pigment powders, and I don't use every single one, but I pick a few and then I sprinkle my powder onto the mat. I use all of the colors together on the mat. I didn't want to go one at a time, so here I'm just giving them enough space that I can add water, mix them together to dissolve them, and then use them as watercolor paint. And here I am spritzing them with a little bit of water. Same situation like the other powders. The more water you add, the lighter the color is going to be. And I'm just trying to be really careful not to spray it too hard and then have it splash everywhere. So with a regular brush, I'm just blending that powder into the water to dissolve it. And then I grab a piece of watercolor paper, and I'm basically doing a swatch page here. I'm picking up the color, and then I'm going to do a blotted area onto my paper with each and every color. I'm going to repeat this with every color that I have on here. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here and part of the CityGal Papeterie family. I am always grateful for each and every one of you for your viewership. And in case you're not familiar with my channel, I do different types of paper crafting. I create greeting cards. I also do some mixed media stuff. I also like to dabble in some painting and some junk journaling and other types of journaling and a little bit of scrapbooking. So if you enjoy any of those things, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell if you want to get notifications for when I have a new video up. I've been trying to maintain a good 3-day a week schedule. So far, so good. This video is gonna probably post later than I would like, but as long as I'm getting it in there, I'm okay with that. So yeah, if anyone ever has any requests for any particular type of technique or project, you can always request that in the comments, and I will absolutely do my best to include it somewhere in one of my videos. Also, if you're not aware, I do have an Etsy shop, and sometimes I do post my products, not my products, my projects can be available for purchase in my Etsy store. I don't always do that. Sometimes I totally forget. But the main reason that I do that is because I don't have enough space to keep everything. And of course, any purchases made do help me to continue creating more videos for you guys and more projects. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoy what you're seeing. And like I said, if you like it, hit subscribe, share, and yeah, definitely share your thoughts with me. I always want to know what you guys are thinking. Here I'm combining some of the colors just so I'm using up whatever paint is left. So the bottom two colors is just a blend of the blues that are on the page, and then the warmer colors, the red, orange, and yellow. And like I said, these could be used like this, just as watercolors. You could also use that smushing technique where you're kissing the paper to the mat, or you can put it on a piece of plastic, mix it on there, and then with the plastic you can create those blobs that I was making before. Or you could even put these in a spritz bottle and use them as spray colors. So of course, here I am being frugal and making sure that I use up all of my spray and pigment, and that's what that looks like. And I do use all of these in one way or another, and again, you'll see towards the end different ways that I use these backgrounds in creating Christmas cards. Now here I mix all the colors, so it definitely gets a little bit muddy, but still usable in my opinion. And now I'm just going to clean up my mat and we will be moving on. Now I'm going to use the texture paste, and I'm really just going to spread this on my card mat, on the pieces of cardstock, just like you would butter on toast. I'm just spreading a kind of thin layer, not too thin. I want to be able to see enough of the color that I don't see the white underneath. But I also don't want it so thick that it's going to take, a week to dry. The cardstock that I'm using is glossy cardstock. I intended to use regular cardstock, but I didn't know where I put it. So I'm using the glossy cardstock that was already near me. And it looks the same. It looks the same on matte paper or glossy paper. And my camera and my lighting seriously does not do these colors justice. These colors are really vibrant. They are really bright. And they do dry matte. So whatever you're going to put them on, they are quite opaque and they are matte. So this now the next day. All of my papers are nice and dry, and you can see it gives you a nice matte color. It's opaque, so you're not going to see through it, depending on the thickness, obviously, that you've applied. And I created the teal, the pink, and the green, and then I also did a red one with some green Distress Oxide sprays on it. I just did a splatter. And then these are the ones that I made. This was the red one is just a practice. The yellows are the pigment powders. This is another practice. And then the green here is the magical powder. That gray bluish color is also the pigment. Is also the pigment powder. You can see the difference of the vibrancy, and that's the magical powder. And that's also the magical powder. I feel like the pigment powders are much softer, and then the magicals are very vibrant and almost like neon. So those are all done. Here are my larger pieces of paper, and this is what they look like once they're all dry. The color does get a little bit lighter, and I love that. That reminds me of the sunset. And this one, you can see like the other colors popping through, the blues and the purple in the center. I just love this so much. And then you can add stuff on top of this. You can layer more colors, you can layer sprays, you can add stenciling over it, you can add texture pastes with stencils, you can blend ink over it, you can stamp on it, you can do all kinds of things with these backgrounds. And then this is the final one that I did with the pigment powders. It's the swatch piece. And now these are some of the cards that I made. So this is the one with the texture paste. It was red texture paste with the green splatter. And I didn't have a snowflake stamp. Oh, here I'm just showing you how that started. That was how it started. And then I blended some distress ink over the top and the sides to give it, you know, that darker type of look. And then I wanted to stamp a snowflake on there, but I didn't have a snowflake stamp. So what I did was I grabbed a snowflake die, and I die cut the shape from a piece of foam, and then I put it onto this acrylic plate. It's just on there with some double-sided tape. So just a tip, if you ever find that you have a die but you don't have a stamp of something, you can definitely use a die cut as a stamp. If you cut it out from a piece of foam, that helps and it works. It's not like a long-term thing, but you can definitely have multiple uses from that one DIY stamp. And so it has dimension. I added some foam to the back, and I added the little layers and tag in the front, and some jute twine. And then I tore the edges to give it some texture and kind of a grungy look. It's also on top of a textured mat because I ran that through my die cutting machine with an embossing folder. Here's another one. This is one of the magicals backgrounds, and then I stamped some snowflakes onto my background using I'm gonna pull it out right now. I use this Stampendous stamp set, and I think it's called Snow Buddies. So yeah, I took the snowflakes from this set, and then I stamped them onto my background. And then the little house stickers, the puffy stickers, came from this Snow and Cocoa sticker set by Crate Paper. And then I used this really pretty textured foam at the bottom, and a piece of twine is also layered on pink vellum and some foam as well to give it dimension. I love this, how this card came out. And then with some of the other splatter paper, I made some ornaments. I drew the shapes of the ornaments with a Sharpie marker, and then I cut them out. I added some stickles, glitter glue. I think that's just glue. And then see, I cut several of these little ornaments. And this is how they started. So I used these pieces of paper, and I drew the shape of the ornament and the design with a Sharpie, and then I cut them out and used them on my card. I added a sentiment to the bottom. I put it on top of a textured embossed background, and that's that card. And this is my favorite one. I created this little winter scene with the green papers that I painted. Again, I'm using that textured white foam sheet at the bottom. I'm using this snowflake confetti around the sides. I die cut these circles for the background and the frame. and it's also on a embossed background. And so this is the piece of paper that I used. After cutting, I sketched some of the pieces out, and then I cut them out, and then I blended the edges with some distress ink. And then I added some little stickles details to the trees to give it a little bit of glitter. And I think it came out really, really cute. See, there's the stickles. I also used the stickles on here. And then for my final one, I did a cluster card. I used one of the colors from the swatch paper. I stamped some lettering onto it, and then I tore a piece and added it to the background. I stitched my pieces together onto my background, added a tag with a little string there in a bow, and another photo element. There's Santa and his sleigh, and again I added some stickles for glitter on that as well. So these are the cards that I created using the mixed media backgrounds. I hope this gave you some ideas. I hope it was useful information for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you are all having fun creating some holiday themed crafts. See you guys in the next video.